Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
Should we endeavor to explain that fact to all the kids out there?
That might be wise.
You do it.
Okay, well, I don't know where to begin.
You're really good at this, Louis. And I'm not even going to edit this.
Damn it!
So, yeah. Usually we're very edited and put together, but in the interest of keeping weekly while Doctor Who is on, I think we're going to do less of that.
Yeah.
Which means I am going to make an effort to say less.
Huh. I guess I should make a similar promise, but no.
I didn't say promise, I said effort.
Okay, well, but you promised to make an effort.
I guess, yeah.
I'm not going to promise that.
Anyhow.
Wait, okay.
Oh.
This is off to a great start.
So you just babbled a bit.
Yeah.
Which happens all the time.
Oh,
it just
yeah.
usually gets magicked away or stuck on to the end of the episode if it's a funny babble. But
that happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shall we talk about Doctor Who?
Yes.
Actually, before we start, so Liz Sladen. Yeah, that was really upsetting to hear.
Yeah, wow.
I'm sure pretty much everyone who's listening to this is already aware of that news that Liz Sladen, who played Sarah Jane Smith, has passed away.
Yeah, I didn't even know that she was sick.
I don't think a lot of people knew.
Okay.
I think people who were following the filming, I just said, people who were following the filming of the Sarah Jane Adventures had some idea that production on the second half of next season had been delayed due to health reasons.
Oh.
But I don't think anyone had an idea of how serious it was.
Huh. Wow. But yeah, that was a shock.
It was very much a shock.
Huh.
Yes. I don't know how much there is I can say about that.
Yeah, I don't
like in terms of giving tribute, but
yeah, I don't know.
It's upsetting, and she'll be missed.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to catch up on the Sarah Jane Adventures now. I haven't done so yet.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing. I always wanted to do that.
Yeah, but not under these circumstances.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Doctor Who, the Impossible Astronaut.
Yeah, that was wow. I had to watch it like twice. Like
I did. I didn't have to, but I watched it.
Yeah, but there was a lot going on in this episode.
There was.
And a lot of just really interesting wibbly wobbly stuff.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And it was kind of one of those things where the Series 5 finale was kind of wibbly wobbly, kind of in the way that Blink was. But this was wibbly wobbly in sort of a different way. And because it's more, I don't know. I'm actually, I don't know.
I was actually a little bit unhappy with some of the time travel aspects.
Really?
Because I felt like the entirety of last season was sort of one big story about time can be rewritten.
Uh-huh.
And right now, what they're telling us is time can't be rewritten anymore. And there's always been that in Doctor Who. There's never really consistent rules, and it's always, well, time can be rewritten unless it can't, and in some circumstances it can't. And I think that's fine for, like, the Russell T Davies era, when Doctor Who isn't really about time travel. It's about they use a time machine to get to all these different storytelling opportunities. But when the story becomes about time travel in the way that Stephen Moffat always is, then it's kind of... I don't think it works quite as well when you say the rules are this way, and then without any reason at all, you say, well, the rules are now this way because I said so.
Yeah, that's true. And they did like even bring that up, and then they just sort of like waved it away. Like, yeah, no, we can't change this time. This time can't be rewritten. And that was, but even so, it kind of like with it's according the Doctor is dead unless they do something. Right.
So I'm not saying that, well, we should stick with this now, or I'm not saying that they I'm not suggesting a way that they should be doing things. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying it's jarring. The more significant time travel is to the story, the more I wish they could be consistent with it.
Well, yeah, and the thing is with this particular story, it just seems kind of strange, or rather, it's frustrating that I'm fairly confident the Doctor's not really dead. He's not going to stay dead. And so time will have to be rewritten. But they are making a big statement on how they can't do that. And and so I'm hopeful that they're going to explain this in kind of an elegant way. That they're going to actually, there's actually some sort of, that Stephen Moffat has like some brilliant plan.
Maybe. I mean, and by no means was this absent from the Russell T Davies era. I mean, there was a lot of, this can't happen, ever. Ever. And then it happens. Like, most of the big events of the Russell T Davies era were things that we were told could never happen, happening.
That's true.
So, but, I mean, I guess this is probably assumed at this point, but this is probably the arc for the season rather than simply just this two-part story.
Right. That's what I sort of assumed that as well, and that's also very frustrating to me that there's all these questions that have been raised in this episode, and they're not going to be, and I don't expect them to all be resolved in the second part.
Nor do I even really expect them to be resolved in the first part of the season.
Ooh, yeah.
We're probably going to have to wait till the fall.
That's... Oh, man. It's like Lost.
Yes. Yes, it is. But I don't know. It is an interesting way to tell a story. And because last season sort of ended with a lot of references back to what had happened so far. Like, you had the Van Gogh stuff, you had Winston Churchill. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of wondering whether, like, this season is that but backwards, because there's what seems to be a World War II scene.
Right.
And a scene that's set in, I don't know what time period we'd call it, but the scene that opens the episode.
Right.
That might have something to do with the piratey themed episode that's upcoming. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm wondering whether we're going to get back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Because it did, because I assume that was all, that was the 200-year span in which, so like, so that was stuff that the Doctor had done and then he became, 1100 years old, and then, so obviously. But yeah, so that's interesting.
Out of curiosity, did you have some people would call this a spoiler, and I guess I probably would too, but a spoiler that was on the cover for Doctor Who magazine? Did you see that?
Was it the thing about someone dying in this episode?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I did.
Because of that, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be the Doctor, but because of that spoiler, when the Doctor died, I wasn't at all shocked or surprised. I was like, oh, I guess it was the Doctor who was going to die.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I felt that same way.
Yeah, I felt like the dramatic impact of that was completely ruined for me because of Doctor Who magazine.
But then again, I don't even know if it hadn't been spoiled for me. I don't even know if I would have been all that surprised. Well, no, I guess I would have been surprised, but I wouldn't have been upset, I guess.
There's just been so many fake outs.
Yeah.
every single one of those 4 characters has visibly died on screen. So already.
True.
So
right, because in series 5 finale, the Doctor appeared to die, but then wasn't actually dead.
As did Amy.
Right.
Or rather, Amy appeared to die in the previous episode.
Right.
Rory appeared to die a couple times.
Yeah.
And River, we've already seen what we assume to be her legitimate final end, although that could be rewritten.
Right. Huh.
So
That's very interesting.
About River. Now it's I had actually been wondering this, and because every time we've seen her has been for her chronologically previous.
Yes.
To, for instance, the Time of Angels was before the Library two-parter, and the Pandorica was before the Time of Angels two-parter. Now she says in this episode, every time I see the Doctor, and she insists that it's not just they're meeting in a random order; they're meeting backwards.
Right.
But there are a couple of things in this episode that sort of contradict that. For one thing, in this episode, she meets the 1109-year-old Doctor, and then she meets the current 907, is it, year-old Doctor, and between those there are multiple other adventures that they've had together.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that is a flat contradiction of that, but that's maybe nitpicking on my part.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess, but it was kind of a different thing, I guess. But yeah, no, that was, I mean, yeah, I had noticed that they weren't just meeting in a random order, but rather backwards, or yeah. But it seemed, when River points it out, it's as if to say that there is a reason for them to be backwards. As if she's, or at the very least, as if she's aware that it's happening back in reverse.
Right.
So I would have imagined that if she had thought that, she would be confused by this 1100-year-old Doctor who knew everything, or I don't know.
Knew more than she would expect him to.
Right, exactly.
And another thing is the vortex manipulator.
Oh, right.
I was tweeting about this.
Yes, I saw that tweet.
She has a vortex manipulator, and it's not explained how she acquired it, but she acquired a vortex manipulator in the Pandorica Opens.
Yes.
And aside from what she says to Rory in this episode about the fact that they're always meeting backwards, there's no absolute confirmation that story hasn't already happened from her perspective.
Yeah.
In fact, Amy and Rory allude to that story while talking to River, and River doesn't react to it in any meaningful way. Doesn't say, "Yes, you're right. I remember that." Or she doesn't say, "What are you talking about?" Just no mention is said. So
hang on, I don't remember that. What was that? What was it?
Rory, River is telling Amy and Rory that the Doctor can't go back on his own timeline, or else something really bad will happen. Amy says he's done it before, and Rory says, yes, but in fairness, the universe did explode.
That's right, yes.
And whether that's happened or not for River is it's not as clear as I would like it to be in this story. I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't really think of, I wasn't even paying attention to that. But yeah, it is really, it is kind of difficult to piece this all together, and it's difficult to keep in mind that River may not be aware of the things that have happened in previous episodes, and, well, in most of the time, hasn't. But yeah, wow.
Well, one of the reasons that I'm so interested in this is because this is a theory that I had sort of thought about before, but am now thinking about even more. The idea that River is the child of Amy and Rory. Have you heard that theory?
I have not.
It had been talked about. Pretty much every theory that could be talked about is talked about. And I thought that's sort of interesting. And one of the objections I heard to it is, well, then how come River wouldn't react in such a way when she first meets Amy? But as far as we know, we have never seen the episode in which she first meets Amy.
Right.
We've seen the episode in which Amy first meets her, but not in which she first meets Amy. So
right,
who knows?
That's very interesting.
I would like it if they would be clearer about it.
Yeah,
but maybe they can't be clearer. So
yeah. Actually, one thing that I was actually discussing this with my family, and one theory that kind of cropped up was that, I don't know if this is maybe this is something that people have already discussed, but and actually it could still fit in with the idea that River would be the child of Amy and Rory, but it was that that River is the little girl in the Impossible Astronaut.
I had thought of that.
Uh-huh.
And I had also thought of the notion that even if that's not true, River may be the person who's in the spacesuit on the beach who shoots the doctor.
Uh-huh.
Because we're told that River has killed a good man.
Right.
We're also told by Stephen Moffat that this year we'll learn the truth about River.
Uh-huh.
And I assume that the doctor getting killed on the beach is something that we're going to return to again this year beyond the context of this two-part story.
Would make sense, yeah.
So putting those together, I think it's a distinct possibility that it's her in the spacesuit. Perhaps she's the little girl, or perhaps she's not. But either way, I think that's something that is in my brain.
Huh. That would be very... That does make a lot of sense. I don't think that we're done. Well, we will be done with the 1100 year old doctor dying in the immediate future. But that's one of those things that definitely is going to have to be resolved some way.
And speaking of that scene, that whole scene just looked awesome.
Yeah.
In terms of the location filming, especially.
Yeah.
I thought I was watching a Hollywood movie or something.
Yeah, it was that was really spectacular.
So good for the BBC.
Yeah.
And BBC America, who co-produced it.
Yeah.
I also I was a huge fan of Mark Sheppard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always nice seeing him.
He's in everything. So
yeah, that's right. He was in Dollhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And Firefly, and in some of the later seasons of Battlestar.
That's everything.
Yeah, that is everything.
Yeah. he yes, and I don't know which accent is his real one.
Yeah.
But he did the American accent pretty well.
Yeah, he did.
So, and if that's his real accent, then in other places when he's done a British accent, he did that very well.
Yeah, actually, yeah, what accent did he do in Dollhouse?
In Dollhouse, I think he was an American.
Okay.
But his name was... He had a Japanese name in it. I don't know why.
Did he?
Yeah, I think the thing is, when the casting notices went out, they're looking to cast that as a Japanese character, but when they found that he was available for Dollhouse, they just cast him and thought it would be funny if they kept the name.
Huh. Well, that's something.
It sure is.
But yeah, in Battlestar, he has a British accent.
Okay.
I think. Does
I'll
he?
probably watch that eventually.
So yeah.
Anyhow.
I feel like I need to know that now.
There's always Wikipedia.
There is.
I don't know if Wikipedia will tell you, but it's always there. I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about Amy.
Yeah.
As a human being.
Yeah, it's kind of... I still get the sense that she's kind of a... I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just don't... She seems kind of confused and I mean, I don't know. She's
kind of... I don't know. I feel like she's never been written with any sort of coherent motivation, and one of the reasons for that is because Amy doesn't know things. And that was the thing in Series 5. Her memories had been tampered with.
Yeah.
And so here what we have is a story in which her memories are being tampered with.
Yeah, and so... Yeah, and another thing. They never... Because... Yeah, I guess I might be overthinking this, but when... In that episode with Victory of the Daleks, and she hadn't met the Daleks. I guess, like, and, like, the Doctor brings that up. I guess that got corrected. Are we meant to assume that got corrected? Because I feel like that they never. I don't know. I don't know what I would have wanted to confirm that had been corrected. Like, oh, I remember the Daleks now. Like, I don't know. I'm probably expecting too much.
Yeah. Well, I'm just as confused as you are. I don't really have any expectation that we're going to get an explanation as to, for instance, whether Amy's the only person who's forgotten about the Daleks, or whether everyone on Earth has forgotten about the Daleks, or whether the Dalek invasion in 2009, 2010, whether that never happened anymore, or whether everyone now remembers again.
Right, because when in the scope of the season, I thought that, in the scope of season 5, I thought it was just the TARDIS explodey thing that was causing all these problems, and then they would have been corrected when that didn't happen.
And speaking of the TARDIS explodey thing, well, I think at the end of Series 5, we were certainly led to believe that mystery had not been completely solved as well.
Right.
That we still needed to know why those events were happening, who set them in motion. Mm-hmm. And it has something to do with the silence will fall thing.
Yeah.
And I would like to hope that they're moving in a direction towards following up on that, but it just didn't happen to get mentioned in this episode at all.
Yeah, because at the end of, I mean, obviously they would want it to end on that kind of a note. But at the end of Series 5, it was very much like, yeah, we got to figure all this stuff out. Let's go. And then we come back, and that's not really what's happening.
But then again, that's how Victory of the Daleks ended.
Well, that's
with
true.
The Doctor incredibly concerned about the fact that Amy does not remember the Daleks, which is not mentioned again.
Right, that's true.
So, who knows? The silence were pretty cool.
Yeah.
I liked them.
Yeah, they were really creepy.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
It's a little similar to the Weeping Angels, but not that similar. Mm-hmm. And it's also just like a good design.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really it's not really like overdone or anything. It doesn't look, it's kind of like a simple sort of thing. And I actually really liked the eyes. Mm-hmm, because in all the sort of preview photos or the trailers I'd seen, you couldn't really see their eyes, and it kind of made them look sort of, I don't know, like it was just like a mask, but then to actually see them up close and see like the eyes, and it looked more like I almost want to say it looked more like an intelligent being, as opposed to just like some kind of scary monster thing.
I'm kind of wondering whether... Well, they're called the Silents, Silents, correct?
I was never actually clear on that.
They haven't been identified by name in the show.
Right.
But that's what I've heard or read in places.
That would make sense.
And I'm assuming that they are related to the Silence Will Fall idea. Uh-huh. And I'm also kind of assuming that they're the main antagonist of this season, and not just this two-parter.
Right.
I'm making all of these assumptions and guesses, and I mean there are people out there who know because they have seen part 2.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. I mean the free preview screenings that happened in New York, and I don't know if the other ones were free, but the one in New York was free, and then there was one in Chicago as well, I think. And those showed both of the parts of the two-parter.
Huh. I did not know that.
Yeah, so quite a few people have already seen part 2 and
wow.
And know
I feel like
the answers.
I feel like that's, first of all, unfair. I'm just going to go ahead and say that's unfair.
Sure.
And also, wow. I mean, that seems like an odd choice, though, just to have, have people know, these things. I don't know. I don't know why I feel this way, because I feel like just watching any Doctor Who before the rest of the world gets to watch it should be unfair. But
it should be only for like the most privileged people, like for the stars of the show, for the people who make the show, and for the Queen.
That's a good list.
Yes.
I don't think we've left anyone off that list.
Probably not.
But yeah, no, I don't know why I feel that's kind of weird. I mean, like, I guess, I don't know. And it's kind of weird that I would have just assumed that the preview would have just been the first half. I don't know why I assumed that, but I did.
I think there was one in Toronto that was only part one. And I don't know. It was. I think they're making a very big effort to build additional publicity for the show in America.
Yeah.
I think that's because they think it could be doing a lot better than it has done. Not that it hasn't done well, but they think it could be bigger than it is, and they're right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I am totally okay with them trying to do that.
Did you watch it on BBC America?
No, I did not.
Well, I watched it otherwise, and then I watched it on BBC America.
Mm-hmm.
BBC America. Well, first of all, they had a different trailer for the next episode.
Oh, really?
That had a few additional scenes.
Oh.
And also, they had this really dumb thing before the opening theme.
Oh.
Of the show, like they had the cold open, the teaser.
Yeah.
And then they had this little thing with Karen Gillan saying, "I'm Amy Pond. When I was a little girl, I met a man called the Doctor. But then he came when I was an adult on the night before my wedding and took me away, and we went on fantastic adventures." And I just hate that. I really didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's I feel like the episode itself has been tampered with.
Yeah.
But, I mean, not that inserting commercial breaks isn't tampering in a way, but...
Yeah, that's... I mean, I understand trying to hook in, like, a new audience. Like, you do, let's make this a little bit more friendlier to someone who's never seen Doctor Who before.
Especially since they're doing such a big promotional push.
Right. But at the same time, yeah, it's kind of weird. Especially for, fans of the show. Well, people who are already fans of the show, and they don't need these little reminders that feel unnecessary.
Well, I was actually... when I watched the show with my sisters, I was watching it with my sister Kelly, who is a big fan of Doctor Who and a big fan of Matt Smith. And my sister Christine, who has seen every episode of the Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant eras, but has never watched a Matt Smith episode. And she was so confused the entire thing.
Right. Like, I don't think that, a 30-second speech by Amy Pond would properly set up all the things that have happened.
Especially River.
Right.
And I mean, luckily she knew who River was because she had seen the Library two-parter. But, I mean, the relationship between River and these particular characters is a little... It requires a little more than that.
Yeah, so I feel like that almost... I feel like this is kind of a... I mean, once again, I think it's great that they're doing all this promotion, but I think this is kind of a weird place to pick up on Doctor Who. Like,
whereas the 11th Hour was a great place.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anything, that would have been the time to do this big promotional thing. But
and they did do a lot more promotion.
That's true.
For that than they had ever done before.
Right, I remember a bus with in New York City with the ad.
An entire bus. Yeah, dear listeners, while Doctor Who, I think this was while the series was already in progress. This was the day that Victory of the Daleks aired in the UK, I think.
Yes.
You and I and some other people were in New York City, and we had heard that there were buses in New York City with Doctor Who advertisements on them. We spent like the day sort of keeping an eye out, and we didn't see a single one until just moments before we left.
Yeah.
And it was like emotional closure on my journey to New York. I was so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was important.
But yeah, there are like billboards and stuff in major urban areas for Doctor Who now.
That's intense.
And this is a really weird place to pick it up, but I mean, on the day of the premiere, BBC America ran a marathon of all of season 5.
Oh.
then a recap episode that recapped all of season 5.
Oh.
And then did the premiere, which contained that 30-second monologue. So,
well, that was nice of them.
Yeah. So if you were desperate to catch up, then that would be a way to do it. But
yeah, I guess that makes a bit more sense now. Still, though, if they had just run that marathon, did they really have to add in that little 30-second blurb about I'm Amy Pond?
They didn't.
But whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I think we've said most of what there is to say about the story. Well, we haven't really said like overall whether it was good or bad, or should we give it a numerical rating? Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Actually, no, I don't think I can give it a numerical rating until I've seen part 2.
Yeah, that's the thing, is because I really don't know. They've set up a lot of stuff happening in this episode, and I don't know what's relevant and what I have to wait a longer time for to get, closure on. So I almost don't know. Yeah.
I feel sort of like how I felt when I was watching The End of Time Part 1, where there was a whole lot going on in The End of Time Part 1, and it wasn't clear how it all fit together, or in fact, if it all fit together at all.
Right.
And in The End of Time Part 2, we found out the ways in which some of it fit together, and some of it just had nothing to do with anything, like Barack Obama, or old people on a bus. But, I mean, I am a person who really liked The End of Time Part 2, but The End of Time Part 1... I watched it, I was like, well, I enjoyed watching that, but I can't really form a strong opinion on it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it, but I mean, I'm gonna have to see part 2. And I mean, like, I do feel almost as if I'm watching Lost, just because I don't know when these questions I have will be answered. And I almost feel like I don't mind. Mm-hmm. Because I'm used to that I'm used to television doing that to me. But, I don't know. I don't think... It's very strange for Doctor Who to do that, though. Well... It
is, I think.
I mean, like, they do tend to set up, like, whatever the season's big bad, if you will, is... They sort of drop hints in some of the earlier episodes in a season, typically. But, I mean, this is kind of a whole different thing.
Yeah, I guess it is. I really don't like the feeling that I'm left asking a lot of questions, and I'm not sure whether they're stupid questions that the show has no interest in addressing.
Right.
Like my questions about River's personal timeline. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have a nagging feeling that maybe these are questions that just don't matter in the context of the story, and I don't know. I feel like maybe the story should be doing a better job of drawing my attention toward questions that do matter and away from questions that don't matter.
Yeah.
But, Anyway, it's entirely possible that Part 2 will be entirely different from Part 1, because most Moffat two-parters have a Part 2 that is very different in tone and setting and everything from Part 1.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, definitely. And I think that The Big Bang was like the best example of that, with how it opened. It was drastically different from how what was the episode that came right before it?
Pandora Opens.
Right. How that ended.
And that's also true in Time of Angels / Flesh and Stone, because like Time of Angels is all dark caves, Flesh and Stone is all magic forest.
Well, that's true, yeah.
And then Silence in the Library, too. Like, Silence in the Library throws you into the middle of the dream thing with Donna.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So,
huh.
And even the preview of Part 2 of this story looks like it goes in crazy directions that you wouldn't be able to anticipate.
Yeah, I was actually very confused when I watched the trailer. Because because it just felt like it was so different. It felt like it was a different... Like they were going basically, in crazy directions I couldn't anticipate.
And they're covering a lot of a lot of ground, like a lot more ground than I was expecting them to. Like a lot more things that happened in the trailer have now happened that I thought would take a longer time, like the Lodger TARDIS.
Yeah.
I was not expecting the Lodger TARDIS to show up this early.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
And I'm now actually kind of wondering, do I need to go back and rewatch the Lodger and see if the Silents are there?
Yeah.
Are they in other places in Series 5?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I found something. I don't really know where I was on the internet that I found this sort of fan theory about the Silents being in Series 5, but I guess there had been information leaking that when you look away from the Silents, you forget about them, and there were.
I hadn't heard that, but okay.
Yeah, I think. Well, it was actually that theory, that little theory that I had stumbled across that spoiled that for me. But whatever. But yeah, no, and so they go on to list like certain points in different episodes in Series 5 where people seem to look at something and be confused and then look away and carry on with their lives. But it's very, like, I found myself saying, well, this could be anything in a lot of them. There was like one point in The Beast Below where Amy, it's actually right after the Doctor tells Amy to go off and find that girl or whatever. She sort of, there's like a black figure that kind of like walks in front of the camera and she sort of looks confused for a moment, but you don't really see anything. And actually, what really creeped me out with this site, because they actually pointed out some specific parts in specific episodes and they gave times, and I was like, well, okay, I guess I can just open up the episodes and look at these little parts that they're talking about. And actually, in the Pandorica Opens, or sorry, in the Big Bang, there is in the museum in the dark when when older Amy comes out of the Pandorica, there are sarcophagi, yeah, that have sort of like shrouded figures behind them that are standing like perfectly still, but they're just kind of there. And actually, as the camera pans back, you see like what looks like kind of like a robe or something at the very edge of the camera being pulled away. And I don't know if that was like a production error, but I feel like it was very specific, and it was just at the very corner of the screen. And I feel like if that were like a production error, they would have caught it. But it was very strange.
Huh.
And it was actually really creepy. Like, that scene seemed, like, when I watched that scene, actually every time I've watched that scene, I've just been paying attention to, Amy and, younger Amy, or Amelia, I guess if you want to distinguish them that way. And so I just never noticed these creepy things that were sort of in the background and just really creeped me out. But I don't know if those were the Silents, though, because they didn't really look like the Silents. I don't know.
Huh.
It's very weird.
It sounds weird.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, I think it was something like 30 minutes in. I could be wrong about that, though.
Huh. Wow.
But yeah, no, it was, oh, you know what it was? It was the scene where Amy's trying to figure out, like, I think it is right after when is it? It's like right when Amy's trying to figure out what year it is, and so she's doing all these things like, oh yeah, the National Museum, I came here when I was little. Oh yeah, complicated. I think that was when it was.
Huh.
I think. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look into that.
Yeah, it was like really, it was really weird. But I mean, like, a lot of the other stuff, it could be anything. Although actually, now that I think of it, one of the things on the list was the Lodger, because in the Lodger, when Amy's in the TARDIS, she's like kind of arguing with the Doctor, and like the Doctor's talking over her, and she's trying to get the Doctor's attention for something, and like she's kind of looking off. You see like sort of a close up of her face, but she's looking off in the distance, and it looks like she's confused or something, and then she kind of looks away and then shrugs it off. And that I actually thought could be the Silents.
Could be.
And it actually, because it was weird, and I do remember watching it. I remember thinking, that's weird. Like, what? Because it's, you know how it's kind of one of those things, like, where when a character does that, you think that the episode's about to focus on whatever it is the character's bringing up, and then it was just sort of dropped, and I guess I kind of found that weird, but at the same time I wasn't really thinking about it like, oh, I guess this is just, I don't know. It was very strange. I do remember finding it weird, but then kind of forgetting about it, kind of like the silence.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that I think they might be onto something at that point.
Wow.
But yeah.
That would be interesting if Moffat had this so well planned ahead that he was not only planting hints towards the Series 5 finale, but he was already planting hints towards the Series 6 plot.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if that's the case, then this will all be uncovered in due time.
Yeah.
It's just one crazy mind game. There have been times when there has not yet been a time when I've thought back and been like, oh, I really miss David Tennant, because I love Matt Smith so much. But to be perfectly honest, I have thought, oh, I miss Russell T Davies. Because Moffat's all about the mind games and stuff, but I don't think he's not as good at writing characters as Russell T Davies ever was. And I do miss that aspect. But
yeah, I would agree.
Speaking of which, Amy's pregnancy.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that a little bit more, but a little bit earlier. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm not sure what that has to do with anything.
Yeah.
In the context of this story.
Right. Well, and then I mean, actually, that was the first thing that I thought of when she kept on getting sick or whatever, or feeling sick. I was like, oh, is this morning sickness? But and then it was and then River mentioned feeling sick too, and I was like, well, okay. I guess
she's pregnant.
Everyone's pregnant.
I've actually heard it suggested somewhere on the internet that they are pregnant with one another.
What?
What indeed?
That would be crazy.
It would be crazy, and I don't remember where I saw that suggested. But
that, you know what? I would not put that past Stephen Moffat.
I don't know anymore. But I mean, someone on Twitter mentioned, and I don't remember who it was who said it, but I remember seeing people talk about it. She's drinking wine on the beach early in the episode, and I have heard that. Again, I'm sorry that I can't properly attribute this because I don't remember who said it, but it's possible that Amy was not pregnant at the beginning of the episode, and that somehow her timeline has been altered during the course of the episode to cause her to be pregnant. Have been pregnant.
That would be very strange. I mean, I guess I could see that, but like, yeah, wow, that's weird.
I mean, because there really isn't much suggestion of it prior to the end of the episode,
right?
I guess, like, because she says to Canton, she says, "There's this thing I've been wanting to tell him." But things just keep getting in the way.
Right.
And that is not something that we've seen. We haven't seen Amy trying to tell him things and then things getting in the way. Maybe that was in the, remember the Space and Time mini episodes?
Oh, yeah.
Where Amy had something to say to the Doctor and then things just happened.
Right.
But, I mean, overall in the show, we haven't seen Amy about to tell the Doctor something and then something gets in the way.
That's true. Yeah, that's very weird. Yeah, that does make sense in terms of having timelines altered, but I don't know.
Could just be bad writing.
Could be.
You never know.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out eventually.
Or
never.
Not. Maybe they'll just forget that Amy was pregnant. Maybe they'll just not follow up on it.
Hey, yeah.
Just like the Daleks. Anyhow. I think we're about ready to wrap this episode up.
I think so.
Yeah, so we should tell the people about how they can contact us if they want to contact us.
And really, who doesn't?
I don't know. I don't know who doesn't. So you've been listening to The Cloister Room, which is a podcast about Doctor Who. And sometimes other things, but not today. Yeah, sorry for stepping on you.
Oh, no.
Lewis.
No.
You can find the show at thecloisterroom.com, and you can email the show at thecloisterroom@gmail.com. Then there's Twitter.
There is Twitter.
All right. You want to tell them all about Twitter?
Oh, I would be happy to.
Start at the beginning. Explain what Twitter is.
Okay, so Twitter is this little microblogging... Is it still called microblogging? I don't know. I've already derailed this. All right, anyway, I have a Twitter username. It's Milesbelli, spelled Milesbelli.
And I have a Twitter username called T. Dickinson, which is TDICKINSON. And we have a Cloister Room Twitter called The Cloister Room, which is THECLOISTERROOM. Make sure you put both R's, because the other one is a porn site.
Is that true?
It will be by the time this episode is posted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyhow, have we told them everything relevant?
Did we say the website?
Yeah.
And the email? And the Twitter. All right, yeah, we're good.
Okay, then you've been listening to The Cloister Room. I've already said that. Wait, we say goodbye now, right?
We do.
Say goodbye. Okay, goodbye.
See ya.